The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Hail Varsity Radio on the road today, celebrating the College World Series. We're here at Zipline on North 14th Street, downtown, as you see a lot of folks in purple and orange meandering around. Some folks are bellying up already to the tap room here at Zipline. And we're a parking lot or foul ball away here from Charles Schwab Field. So if you're headed up for LSU, Tennessee, come on by, grab a brew. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, as it's great to be back. I am back from exile, back from South Dakota, back from the
suspension.
Back from the as Dolman puts it, back from the suspension. Here's what happened. Yes, we had baseball. Yes, we had baseball in the Black Hills, but there was an intervention of sorts where Elijah and Connor says, "Fat old man, you need to leave, and you need to leave for a while." So they sent me out to South Dakota. The longest drive ever. Thank you to our friends in Broken Bow for the speeding ticket and the option for stop class online, which is incredible. Usually you had to blow a whole day. Maybe you still do online, but at least it's not physically in that classroom from back in the teen years.
Well, the best part about those new online stop classes, I had to take one of them back in the day. It was while I was working, I was going down to the police media. And I'm like running a couple of minutes behind, so I was speeding like 5 over, and I get pulled over, and I try to pull one on the cop and be like, "Oh, I'm going down to the police media briefing. I'm covering you guys."
Elijah looked up and says, "Do you know who I am?"
Anyway, the cop did not care, and he still gave me a speeding ticket. Took the online stop class. The problem with it is you could still waste an entire afternoon doing it. Or you can like space it out and you can do it like an hour at a time over the course of like a week. So it's kind of like a pick your poison. Do you want death by 1,000 paper cuts, or do you want to just do it all in one shebang? Either way, it's still annoying and way too long, but at least it gets wiped off your record that way.
Yeah, Mama has threatened my life with what the insurance will jump to. I was going 15 over, full confession. The good news is I was driving. Junior was driving the first 4-hour leg of the roadie, and Junior was going much faster than Dad. So there we have it. Wanted to give a couple shout-outs. Brennan came by, watched a little baseball. It was awesome to see Brennan and Tracy. They came to the ballpark in Rapid City as Brennan and I were scheming on how to get to Deadwood. It didn't happen for me. But, Brennan, you're awesome. Michael in Ogallala was at the hotel we were staying at. He's a fan of the podcast, so shout out to Michael. That's awesome. We're here for baseball. TCU is, they've already delivered a knockout shot, but I may have spoken too soon because it is Oral Roberts, and they are Magic. I know they're in the elimination game, but as we sit right now, 6-1, TCU over Oral Roberts. Of course, Tennessee, LSU, what a comeback last night by Wake.
Oh, yeah.
That was incredible baseball. Stanford is sayonara. Florida waits. We've seen a couple of folks with their Gator hats on here having a cold one here at Zipline. So you're invited out. We are here when there's baseball, which means today, which means tomorrow, probably Thursday, if necessary, on Friday. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240. You can email the show, chris@hailvarsity.com. So emails to get to from my suspension. And a really good email that was sent by Chuck Friesen on the topic of talent. We'll get there, Chuck. Great work with your spreadsheet and a fair question asked not just to us but to other Nebraska media outlets. As Chuck observes, a big-time Nebraska fan, he's like, look, everyone tells me there's talent here. How the hell's Nebraska losing? And losing as often and losing as long as they've they've lost. So we'll try and answer that question here before the show's done.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, but I just want to give some props to Chuck on this email because he has set the standard now for what an email into this show should be. It was well-researched. He put together a whole spreadsheet. He has the numbers. Like, he's like, hey, if you guys want to talk about this, sure, but I have all the information you'll need in your discussion right here in a spreadsheet. Here's my opinion. Didn't resort to any name calling. It was awesome. Appreciate.
He should have. He could have.
Yeah.
Name calling is always
right to.
somewhat entertaining. Somewhat entertaining. So we'll get there. The big news of the weekend is Nebraska recruiting, as Nebraska continues to get yeses and commitments. Earlier today, the latest commitment is Landon Davidson, offensive lineman out of Colorado. That's Broomfield. I think that's a suburb of Denver, if memory serves. Jake Peters also saying yes to the Big Red, another offensive lineman from the 500-mile radius. Prude, the outside linebacker, safety hybrid. Callan Barta is also in. And then Evan Taylor was the first to kick it off over the weekend, the 6'3", 180-pound wide receiver out of North Carolina. Guys, want to go round table here. Are you starstruck, or are you in the mode and mood of, listen, if Coach Rule liked their film, these kids came to camp either on their own dime or with an official visit. Nebraska's been early to offer a lot of kids, and it seems like there's that Rule effect. Once an offer comes from Rule and his staff, then everyone says, oh, it's okay now. If Rule thinks he's good enough to offer, now we can offer. And that game's been played. You go back to when Colorado football was building their program with McCartney, they didn't want anybody unless Nebraska wanted them. That was kind of their standard, is Nebraska offering the kid. If Nebraska likes him, it's okay for us to go after, because damn it, they evaluate better than anybody, and let's try and win the recruiting battle. So stars are important. Stars do matter, but that doesn't tell the whole story. We'll talk to Coach McBride. He's coming up in an hour on that topic, trust in your eyes, and then also trust in kind of the feel, that gut you get with up close and personal one-on-one time. And then, yes, the evaluation in camp. So that's important. I know it doesn't have the star power that past recruiting classes have had, guys, but maybe it'll be a better end of the story when it comes to development, contribution, and then playing time.
Well, and one thing that's interesting about the Matt Rule and the Matt Rule recruiting style is he's come out and said this. He says, yeah, guys, I have assistants. I trust their eyes. I trust my eyes when I see in a football player, but I want to be backed up, too, by testing numbers. And what these guys show, the whole string of commitments this weekend, shows guys with verifiable testing numbers. They might not necessarily be on the track, but you have guys that are running in the 4.4s despite the fact that they're 6 feet 4 inches tall and they want to play defensive back at the next level. You know what? You run a 4.47 as a 17-year-old, that's verifiable. We can look at that information and say, if you're this tall and you can run this fast, we think you're going to be a pretty damn good football player. And you can say the same thing about the linemen as well. These are guys that, from what their own social media posts indicate, can squat a house in addition to what they put out on film. Like, you look at these offensive linemen, what do? They overpower guys at the point of attack. They fire out. They're not zone blockers. That is for sure. They're not these 6'7" zone blockers we've seen at Nebraska in the past couple years. These guys are 6'3", 6'4", built like a brick porta potty.
Yeah.
Brick porta potty, we'll call it that.
The other term's better, but thanks for cleaning it up.
A brick porta potty, they fire out, and man, once they get their hands on you, you are going to the ground, especially if you're a linebacker or a defensive back. These are guys that will overpower you, and based on what they put up in the weight room, you can verify that, you know what, these guys don't just look strong on a football field, they actually are strong, and they're going to be high-level football players. That's what you can say about all these guys. Will that translate to results at the Big Ten level, at the Division I level? We don't know just yet, but based on the history of Matt Rule and his coaching staffs and their recruiting, you can assume, you know what, I know this guy's just a 3-star, but based on what we know about Matt Rule, he's going to find a guy that has some sort of trait that he can capitalize on to make them play better than what you'd expect from a typical 3-star. Connor,
it's going to be so important to develop and coach up, and that's something that Matt Rule, that's a staple of his coaching style. and why he's been successful. It's okay also to take some exceptions if a kid's maybe an inch or two too short or maybe a half a second too slow. They look and they project. What's this kid going to be? What can we do? Weight, strength, and conditioning, and what's his motor like? And I think that's also okay to err on that side of caution based on what you see with your eyes.
Well, I think that's a big reason why Rule is so quick to offer a lot of guys is because he can trust his development, program, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter what, the stars say on paper, what the ratings look like on paper. If Matt Rule looks at you and knows that you can play ball, he's going to go out and after you, and he's going to give you that offer. And if you accept, he's going to put you through that development program, in which he's done at multiple places, and he's done it very, very well, right? He also knows what NFL talent looks like, too, coaching it firsthand. So he can see the potential, I think, right away. He's got a pretty good eye for it, and he also trusts himself and his staff that they can develop a guy. And, maybe you don't have 4 stars on paper. Maybe you got 3. Maybe you don't have the quickest 40 time right now, but maybe you can get better at that. Maybe you're 6'2", but maybe you can get stronger in some areas rather than, just something you can't control, which is height sometimes. So I think that is a huge reason why Rule and his staff offer early and often. And it also just shows that, they're just not afraid to, show what they think, right? I mean, by offering a kid, that means they think they're pretty good, right? So the fact that they're just able to go out and do that and not really have to fear about what other schools are going to do, because at the end of the day, it's the kid's decision. But if you give them yourself as an option, that's always going to help you, especially when it comes to building up a class. And it's all about the development aspect, as you said.
And whenever I think about the star rating system, this isn't the be-all, end-all, but this is kind of how I see it whenever you look at the national landscaping, or national recruiting landscape, excuse me. A 5-star kid is a kid that not only does he have very high upside, but he's also, from a physical sense, going to be ready for college football in year 1. Might not be by week 1, but it's going to be in year 1. They're going to be college ready. They're going to be ready for Division I football. A 4-star kid, do they have a chance to play their freshman year? Yes, but based on what they're showing in the recruiting process, they're not going to be ready in year 1. Maybe it's a redshirt year, and then their redshirt freshman year they're ready to go. But they have a couple traits that they have very high upside in, and they need a little bit of work to become a Division I starter. And then down in the 3-star group, you have guys that have a trait or two that you think could be developed into something high level. They're not college ready right now, but we think they can be after a couple years in a college program. That's not always true, and that's kind of what sets good recruiters apart, is they can find those 3-star guys that they say, you know what, we see this trait right now, we think we can turn you into this in our football program, make you ready right away. Or we see a 4-star kid, you know what, this is going to be a guy that's going to kind of come in and be a day 1 starter, if not very close to it. That's what sets great recruiters apart from good recruiters. Is I do believe the star system in that, you know what, 3 years is a couple years of development, 4-star is going to be 1, maybe 2 years of development, and a 5-star is going to be ready to go. What sets those great recruiters apart is finding the 3-star diamond in the rough that you say, you know what, at our football program specifically, we can make this guy look better than a 3-star in year 1 or year 2. How many of those guys do this staff get? That's the question.
Here's the kind of your poster child for 3-star wow, right? Best case scenario. And it's not that long ago. It feels forever ago from a first-round pick standpoint if you're Nebraska football. But Prince Amukamara was a 3-star kid out of the Phoenix region. Bill Bush saw him, loved him, and saw some upside. Bill Bush is one of the renowned recruiters in college football, not only at Nebraska because of how he recruited when in Lincoln, but also what he did as kind of a guy that was soaking up early in his career from Coach Osborne's staff, and they had some immaculate recruiters. That's Darlington, that's Solich, that's McBride, that's Ron Brown. You had a whole staff of wow recruiters. And you saw a kid like Prince, projected it. You saw a kid like Alex Smith, you projected it, and you were right. Those are the legendary stories. You don't always hit. No, absolutely not.
I think of a guy like Amir Abdullah, where you saw his shiftiness and his make you miss in year 1.
And Coach Beck's like, I want you carrying the football.
We can take advantage of that. You might not have the power to be a Big Ten running back or the speed right now, but right now you have enough make you miss. We're going to put you on kick return.
Yep, and you'll start off as a kick returner, and then you'll transition to a all Big Ten back. Really good conversation. You can check the podcast out with Coffee and Cream this morning to give some credit on the star topic with Damon and Andrew when it comes to the amount of stars. And does that create wins? I think yes is the answer, but it's got to be coached up and it's got to be coached right, and you can't have attrition.
And kind of to my point, you can get yourself wins right away if you're going and recruiting 5-star talent. That was the goal with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. We're going to get 5-star talent. These guys will be ready for the field right away. We're going to immediately turn that into wins. The other way to do it is development, because there's guys that are talented in your football program that weren't necessarily the best high school football players, but you see the traits, you see how you're going to be able to develop them, and you turn them into that. Mm-hmm. And on the flip side, there's guys that are very talented in high school that don't end up in the right program or don't have the upside to some of their traits that you'd hope, and they don't turn into what you'd hope. So it's so hard to use recruiting as an evaluator for how much talent you have within a football program. Inexact
science, and we'll get into the email a little bit later on in the show. Coach Mike Ekeler going to join us, special teams guru with Tennessee, former Nebraska assistant. Eck loves him some Vols baseball, and he's cheering on old Rocky Top. We'll talk to him about some college football. We'll also get into Tennessee and LSU tonight with Coach Ekeler. He'll follow Coach McBride. Mitch Sherman is about 5 minutes away. We invite you down. We're down here at Zipline, downtown Omaha, right across from Charles Schwab Field. 721 North 14th. Hail Varsity Radio continues, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. It is all sorts of fun at Zipline. We're down here in Omaha, the downtown tap room, just a foul ball away from the Charles Schwab Field.
Chris Schmidt, junior wild pitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're not going to talk about Junior's weekend in South Dakota. I love him, but he walked home, pun intended, for the amount of walks we issued. He's scowling at me if he's if he's streaming the show. But we're out here at Zipline, 721 North 14th Street, getting ready for LSU and Tennessee. I know right now Oral Roberts trying to make a run and come back. TCU is up 6-1 last check there. We welcome in Mitch Sherman with The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter's where you find him. Mitch, how's the week been? You enjoying the CWS? Thanks for the time, bud.
Yeah, the week's been good. Tuesday, huh? I never know. Never know during the College World Series, but it's been good baseball, and I've been down there for a lot of it today. I was in Lincoln, but back in Sarpy County now and doing some work at home, trying to juggle a lot of recruiting news on the Nebraska side of things. Had a Jordy Bahl press conference today, and then I've been paying close attention and writing about the 8 teams, or now 6 teams, soon to be 5 teams that are playing in downtown Omaha.
Well, I want to start off. We have some of the Jordy Bahl audio we're gonna have for the listeners next segment, but so much buzz, excitement, joy with Jordy Bahl. And Mitch, you've covered Nebraska for a long time, and you've seen difference makers come in. Can you put into words here on the show what her commitment means? I mean, what's the takeaway here? I know that the proof is real with all the jewelry she's bringing with.
Yeah, it's not like getting a 5-star recruit because she's proven it on the field at the highest level in college. So it's like having Ndamukong Suh in football transfer in after an All-American season, or a quarterback who comes in and has won a Heisman Trophy. That's essentially what it is. So in that realm, it's somewhat unprecedented, certainly at Nebraska, and not far from it, I would say, on a national level in college sports. Now, if it was football or basketball, it would get even more attention. But I would say that on a softball level, this is as big as we've seen. I mean, the story and the importance of it and the interest in it, statewide and nationally, has risen to a level that goes beyond what I can remember and being around Nebraska athletics for really 3 decades. Anything that the softball program has experienced, and I know they've made Women's College World Series in that time, so I don't want to diminish that. But I just don't think that even those events picked up the steam that this has on a national level. And those things did create excitement. Don't second guess that. They did create excitement on a local level. But this, this is not 1 week in May or June. This is now 2 years that Nebraska is going to have this hometown hero who is pitching at Bowling Stadium. So, you see what's going on with tickets, and to hear Jordy and Rhonda LaBelle talk about it today was insightful and interesting, and it's going to be a fun ride.
Mitch, what would you compare this move to? Because I saw a couple of articles last week that were talking about this is one of the biggest, across all college sports transfer moves ever, and obviously the transfer portal still pretty young, but what would you compare this move to out of what we've seen, say, out of basketball, out of football, whatever may have it?
Well, I don't know that there is a comparison in the transfer portal era because you just don't see a Heisman Trophy winner transfer. Now, you've seen plenty of guys who go on to win Heismans transfer to get to the schools that they're at. In basketball, when they get to the top, they generally move on to the NBA. So if there was a comparison to be made, I think you have to look like at free agency in pro sports, really. I mean, if you want to put it in the perspective within per sport of what this compares to, and the timing of it too is just what is so jaw dropping. I mean, she won a national championship, the second one, and was the star of that World Series in Oklahoma City, and then just a few days later, she's gone, and then gone from Oklahoma, and then right on the heels of that, makes it official, announces what I think everybody understood was going to happen last week, that she's going to play these last 2 years in Nebraska. I mean, look, if Nikola Jokic won the NBA championship in Denver, which did, and then 4 days later is a free agent, which can't logically happen because of the calendar. But if he was, and then signed with another team right away, that would be the NBA equivalent of what happened in softball.
And Mitch, if Nikola Jokic left the Nuggets, I would also cry. That's an important part to add there as well. That would ruin my day. But with sports gambling coming to Nebraska on Thursday, Mitch, at a casino which shall remain nameless, no free shout-outs, that's whenever they begin taking sports bets in the state of Nebraska. Do you think it'd be a wise investment to put down some money on Nebraska to make the Women's College World Series?
Can't do it.
No, you can, because it's out of state. If a home Nebraska team is competing out of state, I believe you're good to do that. Could be wrong here. Maybe someone's going to have to fact-check me. But, Mitch, is that what type of expectations we should be placing on this Husker softball team this next season?
Well, let's wait and see what happens with the roster. They have some good pieces, obviously. And I'm not claiming to, understand everything about Rhonda Revell's roster. There's people who cover the team on a much more regular basis than me. But, I know they have Billy and Brooke Andrews, and there are definitely some other pieces there. She likes what she has coming back, and you heard that from her today. And you add in a pitcher who is the best at the top of her game nationally. Look, Jordy had an injury that really limited her at the end of her freshman season. So, first of all, you've got to stay healthy. If she's healthy, she's going to be very good. She's proven that. She can beat teams by herself or close to it. Now, she won't say that. She's very selfless and insists that it is a team game. She needs that defense, and you saw what the Oklahoma defense did for her in the World Series. They came up big time and time again. But let's see what this does for Nebraska softball in recruiting and more importantly, I'd say in the portal, with people who might be able to come in and give them some immediate help at positions where they need it. And, Rhonda wasn't going to go into depth about that today because, she can't. You can't talk about players that aren't there yet. But it sounds like they've had some interest. I think her phone has been needing a recharge at the end of every day, put it that way. And to make them a contender right now, is premature, I would say, but they definitely have one big piece that they need to get started.
Mitch Sherman's with us from the Athletic Hail Varsity Radio on the road at Zipline for the College World Series. Mitch going to get into recruiting. Nebraska keeps getting yeses. The latest, Landon Davidson out of Colorado. You've got Evan Taylor. Of course, you got Jake Peters. You've got Braylon Prude, excuse me. I'm missing one. There's so many. Forgive me, but the point is Coach Rule's really done well with the camps, the official visits, and then the in-person evaluations. What do you take away from Coach Rule and his staff here? There's some kids that are on the star radar, but there's some that are not, but they like what they've seen.
Yeah, the one you missed was Callan Barta, the defensive back out of Topeka. And he's just been way under the radar, as have a couple of these guys. I've got a couple of questions that I've received, about whether Nebraska fans ought to be concerned that they've lowered the standard. And I don't think that's at all the case. I think what's happened and what's changed here in June is now Nebraska coaches have had the opportunity to be able to work with these players on the field. And this is the first time for Matt Rule in recruiting to Nebraska that his coaches have had a chance to work players out on the field. You don't do that in December on official visits. You don't do that in the spring when they come in for junior days. The camps are a real chance to see these guys perform athletically. And, we're seeing the amount of confidence that the Nebraska coaches have in their own ability to evaluate players. They're not concerned about the star rankings. They're not concerned about what other offers these guys have. If they see with their eyes in front of them that they can run the way that they want, that they've got the measurables the way that they want, that they have the body type that Nebraska's looking for to fit the schemes that Nebraska's going to build, then they're going to offer them. They're going to go after them. And then on top of that, what they want after these first 6 months here, and what I think one thing that they've really come to learn as the building of this 24 class has come into focus is they want players who want to be at Nebraska. They went through this process in the spring where a lot of offers went out, as you'd expect, to 4- and 5-star kids, and some of them came in, a number of them came in on visits, and you didn't see a lot that came out of that other than just exposure for Matt Rule and his program. So I don't think that was a time that you're going to look back on as being unproductive like that period in March, but it certainly didn't produce the number of commitments that they've been getting now in June when they've started to work players out and really get to know them. So, the thing that I think is important to understand and remember and know about rankings as they work in college football, and certainly Nebraska is going to need to get some of those 4-star guys, and I think they will, and they already do have a couple in this class. But the thing I think that's important is that with recruiting rankings, it's very much more of an exact science when you're dealing with maybe the top 100 or top 150 players in the country. Then after you get past that point, it's a matter of exposure. It's a matter of whether the guys have been to camps, and then the circumstances in which they've performed in their sophomore and junior season. And there's just a lot of murkiness. So somebody who's rated 350th in the country versus a player who doesn't have a ranking, I don't know that there's a whole lot of discernible difference there. Maybe there will be when they get to college, but it's almost a coin flip as if who's going to be the best player.
Mitch, last thought here, about 15 seconds. Do you have a take on the Bloodlines theme that Nebraska's gone with? You have Camden Cook, son of a great football player. You have Keelan Smith, son of a great football player.
Yeah.
Willis McGahee, son of a great football player. And now you have Braylon Prude. That seems to be a theme.
Yeah, and it goes back several years, too. The players who are sons of ex-Huskers is not a new thing in this program. So, Matt Rule is continuing that, and not just ex-Huskers, but, a guy like McGahee, who's an ex-Miami Hurricane. We'll see how that fits when McGahee gets to Lincoln. I think he'll be fine, but certainly a different spin on bringing in a legacy player with McGahee. Everyone's going to know the name, no doubt. And then the others, Cook and Neil Smith, hard to argue with the success that they had. So the gene pool is going to be strong within that new Nebraska locker room.
Mitch, thanks for the time. You take care. We'll talk soon, bud.
All right, thanks, guys.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We're up here in Omaha at Zipline, the tap room downtown Omaha, North 14th Street. Just awesome. We got a bar room, a tap room full of College World Series baseball fans. We're up here in the loft out of People's Way, so we don't get spilled on or don't spill on others. Not far from Charles Schwab Field. It is LSU, Tennessee tonight, as Coach Ekeler is already in game mode. He will be with us via the video stream coming up at 5:25. Coach McBride gets us kicked off hour 2 here on Hail Varsity Radio. Stream the show, can watch it a couple of different ways. One, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, so you're invited to check that out. And also the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio is what you need to follow. Catch coffee and cream in the morning. Hail Varsity on the way home. Find us on Twitter as well at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah. And then Connor Clark's Twitter is at C_Clark_27. So Jordy Bahl got to spend time with the media today along with Coach Herbel. And let's hear a little bit of those comments from earlier today. And we'll start off here with the introduction and some comments as there's so much excitement. We've seen the season ticket numbers spike and skyrocket. Nebraska softball under Coach Herbel's an amazing program, and it has been. And now you land a homegrown difference maker with that Nebraska tattoo on her right arm. It is going to be a lot of fun. And here is Jordy Bahl.
Yeah, I've always been a big homebody, and so even my freshman year I had pretty strong feelings of homesickness, but every freshman does. So I was just like, every freshman's going to be homesick. But then my second year, instead of those feelings going away, they continued to worsen. And so that's, I guess, when I started just knowing that my heart was always at home.
So that was Bahl in reference, guys, to wanting to come home. We've all experienced homesickness. Connor, you're a student that's going to college outside the state. I moved away from my first radio gig all the way to South Dakota. That's when I got my homesickness.
No speeding tickets that time, though.
I got pulled over a few times there, too. But it was for I didn't change the license plates.
That will do it.
I don't know if Elijah's had homesickness or not, but it makes sense. And I don't know if that was all of it, but you've got family and loved ones here. More from Bahl on this roller coaster week.
Yeah, it was a week of a lot of highs and then also some low feelings, just because it was hard to leave what has been so great the last 2 years as far as just the people and everything. But you come off of winning a national championship and going to Toby Keith's and hanging out with him afterwards, which was pretty cool. But then you have to break it to your teammates and your coaches that you've decided to make the decision to come home. And so that was kind of sad. But once I got home and have started to settle in, unpacking everything finally, it's just started to sink in that, this is real. I'm not going to have to leave home again, and I'm going to get to represent it. And so that's just been a feeling of just happiness, relief, joy. I'm just very excited to be here. So a long week, but a good week.
Jordy Bahl earlier today, she met the media. So did Toby find out first?
Oh, I doubt it.
No, I was going to say, isn't rule of thumb, you gotta enjoy the good times and celebrate the championship, and then deliver the bad news after the tab is paid?
I guess.
More from Jordy Bahl, and let's hear from Jordy on representing Cut 4 Nebraska.
Yeah, so I actually got the tattoo my freshman year at school. Like I said, I was still homesick even then. But it was always important to me to represent Nebraska, even being away. I've always made it a point to be proud of being a Nebraskan. And I think part of being away for 2 years was good because, if anything, just my love for this place and just the pride in representing it grew. But yeah, I got it my freshman year. It was during the spring season, and so we had 2 days going on during spring break, and I went in between our morning and afternoon practice and just got it. So yeah, kind of funny.
See, and that's one way to deal with homesickness. See, a Nebraska tattoo, I respect it. Another great way, I'd argue a better way, is to listen to Hail Varsity Radio in podcast form wherever you are in the country.
Wow.
To taste home. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, bringing you the Husker news for the day.
Look at that.
But if she had been a Hail Varsity Radio listener, maybe she never would have come back home to Nebraska. So it's the give and the take.
Well played on the self-promotion. Actually quite stunned on this.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Let's talk about what Jordy can do for Nebraska. I know the excitement's there. The expectations are, they're Tommy Frazier-like. I mean, they are to be that good. And you look at Bahl, she gets into what she can do for Nebraska here, cut 5.
I don't know. This team has a lot of strengths, and so I don't want to walk in and in any way feel like I'm overstepping anything. That's not what I want to do. I just want to come into this program and help in whatever way I can, and I just think our team is going to work hard all season to just leave it all out there, and then when you just leave it all out there, it's in the Lord's hands. Whatever happens, you're giving everything that you have, and that's all you can ask for. So it's going to be fun to see what happens.
Last thought, can also log on Hail Varsity YouTube channel. They do have the full interview posted and the media session, so can hear from Coach Herbel and, of course, Jordy Bahl in its entirety from earlier today. So Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Last thought from Jordy, and not only the expectation in the circle and on the field, but how about the Mount Rushmore discussion, right? Are you the face of women's sports in Nebraska? She was asked that, cut 9, a little bit earlier today.
No, I don't look at it like that at all. I'm not a person that loves the spotlight, and in any way I can, it's deflected to the team. And so I don't really look at it like that way at all. And so also when you don't look at it like that, you don't feel that.
Great answer.
That's mature.
She's totally mature. I mean, she is well advanced beyond her years, not only from a competitiveness standpoint, from a talent standpoint, but also just a humbleness. And that, I don't know her at all. I know folks that do love the softball and are really into it, and they love just the players she's been, but also how she's carried herself despite this superpower talent.
Well, and it's interesting because she was asked, how do you feel potentially being the face of women's sports in Nebraska? How about being the face of sports in Nebraska, period? With what you've done in the Women's College World Series, what you've done to season ticket sales for the softball team, like, women's sports is carrying the mantle at the University of Nebraska right now. And if you're the face of women's sports in Nebraska, which realistically she can be with the amount of success she's had and the amount of hype she's put around that softball program, you can be the face of sports in Nebraska, full stop.
We'll wind down this first hour. You're invited down to Zipline. We're here at Omaha, the downtown Omaha tap room, just a block from Charles Schwab Field, North 14th Street. Come on by as we'll wind down hour 1 with Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency, as we're here downtown tap room. Zipline is hosted us. We're here all week as long as there's baseball in the evening, and excited to be here. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Reminder about your friends here at Dyer Law. Congratulations to Dyer Law. Their team took fight in front of a federal jury in Omaha. After days of testimony, the jury awarded their client $3 million in damages, which is huge. You can trust in the team at Dyer Law to help ensure your rights are protected and you get the settlement you deserve. Call Dyer Law today at 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law to chat with the trusted professionals about your claim. That's dyer.law, 402-393-7529. 29. So as we kind of scan the crowd below us, Mike Ekeler is all ready to go, man. He's excited that the Jello shot pace is picked up for Rocky Top. I know LSU's a crowd favorite in Omaha, as much gumbo and tailgating as the Bayou Bengals do. But Eck is all sorts of a firecracker. I love when you have him on. Every time we have Mike Ekeler on, we add an affiliate, and I kid you not. So maybe something's in the works here. But we'll talk some recruiting with him. Coach McBride's coming up here in 10 minutes. And, guys, let's get into that email. We kind of touched on it a little earlier from Chuck. What do you think the last 5 years? Has it been a talent problem, a coaching problem, or both? We can kind of do the appetizer here. We'll get into this more with McBride. And I think there's been talent. I think some of the talent didn't translate to what you need in the Big Ten, especially on the lines of scrimmage. And then I also think it was a coaching issue. You had been through a lot of offensive coordinators, okay? You never seem to get right or comfortable with the lines of scrimmage scheme-wise. Now, scheme worked when you had Ziggy running the football and a couple of NFL guys or fringe NFL guys that first year in 2018, but then you shoved some freshmen or redshirt freshmen on the line, and it didn't work so well. I think Adrian Martinez is a hell of a talent. His winning percentage and wins per start aren't good, but what was around him? I mean, so to my answer to Chuck is yes, I think there's talent. I think the talent was mismanaged.
I think the talent was mismanaged, and it's. I can say that there was enough talent on the team to win more games than he did.
There's enough talent to get to a bowl game every year.
Was there enough talent for you to go compete for Big Ten championships? No, I don't believe so. But I think you had talent. That's evidenced by guys like Adrian Martinez. I mean, Wandale Robinson, very talented. Did he ever look talented at Nebraska, or as talented as he actually is? No, that's partly because of utilization.
He looked overwhelmed because he was asked to do everything.
Yes, yeah. And with the talent that was around him, which was, 6 out of 10, and probably utilized incorrectly, I think the correct answer is legitimately probably it's a combination of both, but that doesn't make for good radio.
No, I'm going to side on coaching more so than lack of talent. Hour 2, Coach McBride. We're down here at Zipline, downtown Omaha with Hail Varsity.
Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Thanks for hanging out. Hour 2 is underway with Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. We're at Zipline in the tap room. Not technically in the tap room. We see all the taps in front of us. We're in the loft region to stay out of the consumers' ways, but there's a whole bunch of Nebraskans, a whole bunch of Floridians, a whole bunch of Rocky Top down, and of course LSU all partaking in incredible beer in Nebraska. Zipline, North 14th here, just right across from Charles Schwab Field. We are ready to go. Excited to get you into that evening session, LSU in Tennessee. We welcome in Mr. Blackshirt himself. A Monday turned to Tuesday with Charlie McBride. Coach McBride joins us. Coach, how are we doing? Good to spend some time with you. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, well, I don't know that much about baseball. All I know is the last I remember being told in the Little League was they wanted to know if I could throw the ball. The guy that was our coach was a guy named Nick Etten, who played for the Yankees, and he said, just throw the first pitch, throw it at his head. That was more Major League talk than I think it was Little League talk.
I bet. You played baseball in high school, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And I actually probably should have signed with the White Sox when I had a chance. They had what they call the rookie league then, and I think you got $500. My dad turned to me and said, no, wait a second. You got a college scholarship. You're not going to go play baseball. So that ended that tune right away.
So you would have been in the rookie league right around late 50s, early 60s. I mean, the White Sox, I know it was a era dominated by the Yankees and Cardinals and Dodgers, but that was a great era for baseball, Coach.
Yeah, well, there was a little blurb that my mother showed me in the paper, in the Tribune, I think, when I was maybe the Sun-Times or something in Chicago, and it was talking, there were 3 of us at my high school that they spent some time with, and Paul Richards, who then was with the White Sox, and he put a little thing in the paper about this McBride guy can throw a baseball through a brick wall, but he doesn't know what part of the wall it's going to hit.
Well, that happens. We're experiencing some of that in my household as well. Charlie McBride with us. Coach, I wanted to ask you, we got a really good email from a listener that was questioning kind of a narrative that's been ongoing with Nebraska. The narrative being there is talent down at the stadium. And the listener, Chuck, who wrote in, is like, okay, you guys have been telling me there's talent in Lincoln for the last 6 years, 8 years, whatever it is. Why aren't there more wins? And you have a way better eye than I do when it comes to talent. But folks I talked to, you included, know that there's been some ball players down there. It just doesn't always show up on Saturdays, unfortunately.
Well, that does happen, and I think one of the things is you always want to be on the positive side of things. If an old-time coach like myself gets on and starts doing all the criticism, which he doesn't know anything about anyway, I got my share of it, but that sometimes you try to be positive, and sometimes it goes overboard a little bit in the evaluation of your recruiting class maybe, or certain players, and you want to put a positive side on your program with the fans and things like that. And I think you look at. I had a guy say to me the other day, he said, we lead the league in threes. Well, I said, what's threes mean? He said, we lead the Big Ten in signing 3 stars. We don't sign anything else but 3 stars. Well, I don't get that close to it, but I get close enough to know that there's a lot of people that, are that way. I mean, I think I think when you look up, you can take Minnesota, for example. And this year I did look at it there, and I think they signed 20-some kids already, and they're all 3. So, that's why I say if you're a team, you develop players. If you're a team that's down a little bit, and, even in an area where you don't have a lot of players, you have to go out distance to get players, you're at a disadvantage right away. But if you're sitting in the middle of Ohio or Florida or Georgia or Texas or all those places, you don't have to go out even overnight to find players, So it isn't that. It's a matter of getting there. And then once you get there, it's a matter of just holding on to what you hope you can do. And I'd say, if I was just going to guess, you're probably about 1 out of 10 kids that you would, that you would confront. Whereas if you were in the area and the players live there, close there with their families and everything, it's really tough to recruit.
Charlie McBride's with us here. It's Hail Varsity Radio, and Charlie, how much do you buy into the stars narrative and how much that matters for recruiting? Because it's my take that the hallmark of a good coaching staff, a good culture, and good recruiters are the guys that can take your 3-star talent and make them play better than that. And that's where it really starts out building your classes, finding some guys that maybe are a little bit under the radar and doing something with them. Do you find that their recruiting rankings mean all that much in building a college football program?
Well, I think, in the star thing, I think once you get into the 5, you're not far off. But you can be guessing a little bit on the 4s and stuff like that. If there's a kid that plays in a bad league, or he does, but he's a great player and he does a lot of good things, and you turn the film on and they beat a defensive back, and the guy is 5'6" and he's 6'5", and he gets a 4-star for that. There's so many variables in it that it's crazy. But when you see a player that's, legit, that's not hard to find. I remember Coach Melton was famous for coming in and, and they say, well, you have film, Coach? And he'd say, what do you think? I don't know what a player is. He can play. Don't worry about it. And he could. But, you're in the business a long time. There's certain things you see in players, too, that are 3s and even 2s that you say, hey, this is going to work. This can work if we, work to get him ready and doing things. And if you're in a good example is a recruiting group, whether it's Rival or 247 or all this stuff. When they call you and they said to our recruiting guy, who's the best player in your state, and they say, for example, Amon Green is, thank you, and they hang up, and you say before they hang up, do you want to know about, we have a bunch of other, no, we don't want to know about anybody else. Amon Green's all we need. Well, that's how much they've done in your state. And it's so, if you're looking at where these guys come from, you're looking at California, Texas, Florida, Georgia. I don't know where all these guys are located, but I think that's kind of a human nature thing, that you kind of pick on the guys that are in your area, and you're there because of the number of players there.
Coach Charlie McBride is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, we were talking about earlier that Matt Rule doesn't hesitate to throw an offer at a guy that he likes. What does that tell other programs and other coaches about Matt Rule and what his plan is here at Nebraska by offering these guys and trying to be the first to that table?
Well, I think the thing is with Matt, he's been noted for development. And a lot of times what that means is he's made players out of a lot of guys that weren't players because of the background that they have. You take a kid that was brought up in Texas, for example, which he's interested in. He's been down there. He knows what kind of coaching they've had, which is good. But there's a lot of guys sitting in the city of Chicago that I knew when I started coaching. There were 57 high schools, and there were 7 scholarships given to big schools. And I brought it up to Mayor Daley, and all of a sudden he turned around and professionally filmed 3 of their games, every school in the city, and there were 57 scholarships given out after that. So there's so many things that are variables in this whole business. I think experience is probably one of the things that you have to have, and paying attention to what you think fits your program, not what somebody else says. I think a lot of times high school coaches will overblow kids, and talking to them, and that can be a plus and a minus. So you have to get to know them too, and when you step into the school, and I went in to see how many times they were absent, how many times they were tardy, how many times they were suspended, and talk to other teachers, you learn a whole lot of different things about players.
Coach, whenever you talk about these variables in this evaluation process, did you ever look at a kid's parents or who his family members were? Because that seems to be a theme in Matt Rule's recruiting. Last year they had two guys with parents who were professional athletes, where with Riley Van Poppel, his dad played in the MLB. Eric Fields, his dad was a professional boxer. This year there's already 4 kids in the class whose dads played high-level college football, if not NFL careers later down the road. Did you look at who a kid's parents were and what their athletic careers look like in their evaluation process to help you out and eliminate some of those variables?
There's no question you spend time with the parents. A lot of times, there's, sometimes the mother runs the house, sometimes the father runs the house. These kids that are brought up with their dads who have been in a background of professional athletics, pretty much they're following their father's footsteps. They've been brought up with it. They in some cases, you could say they almost know nothing else. Baseball's been a big thing with that. I think there's a lot of baseball players, that dads have been successful, and then they turn around and are successful in baseball. And you're seeing more of it in football now. And I think that is a true thing, that it's something you have to be careful with, because you can also guess wrong. You have to really pay attention to all the things that you wouldn't think you had to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to, what other students say about them. You want to look at an All-American kid who wasn't picked out. I don't know if he was as soup as Jared Thomas. I went down to the weight room one day, and there were 2 sophomore kids standing waiting. I said, "What are you doing down here?" He said, "We're waiting for Jared Thomas to open up the weight room so we can lift. He helps us." I said, "Is he a pretty good guy?" He said, "He's the best." And they were really talking about him. That meant a lot to me as far as the scholarship part of it. Here's a kid that cares about other people, and and that those little things you pick up on the way if you pay attention and you watch it. Now, Neil Smith's kid probably grew up with his dad playing every Sunday, and so he knows what it takes to do it. Now, whether he can or not, I don't know, but that's a good start.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, who you cheering for before we say goodbye with the World Series? Do you have a team you'd like to see win it?
Well, I don't do that anymore. I used to be Arizona State because Bobby Winkle, who was the coach, is a good friend of mine, and he ended up coaching in the major leagues not as a manager, but as a coach. Mm-hmm. So I don't, I like to watch them on TV. I can tell a little bit what kind of team they're made of. Some kids are a bunch of screwballs. They're pretty good. And then some kids are serious, and, and they're pretty good, too. So which do you pick? So I don't know. But some it looks to me like are pretty relaxed.
Well, all I'll say is a screwball, when used correctly, is a devastating pitch.
I know. You just got to coach him up.
Yeah.
That's good. Charlie McBride with us. Coach, we'll talk next week. Thanks for making time today. We appreciate you.
Okay, have fun. Don't get hit by the pitch, okay?
I won't. I'll wear that Don Zimmer Army helmet just to make sure I'm all right. Coach, you take care.
Talk to you next week.
All right.
Thanks for having me. Bye now.
Mr. Blackshirt himself, Charlie McBride, on Monday with Charlie. Love catching up with Coach. On deck, one of our favorites and the biggest Tennessee fan you'll know. He's cheering for Rocky Top back in Knoxville. Coach Mike Ekeler, Tennessee Vols, with us next at Hail Varsity down here at Zipline, North 14th, right across from Charles Schwab Field.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. As you guys chat for a sec, Coach is calling. Hang on.
Well, Connor, good choice on the rejoin music. I tell you what, how about this rejoin? It's beautiful, beautiful stuff.
I thought you'd like that.
I do like that. And, Connor, we have a comment in here on the StreamYard I'd like to get to.
Oh, boy.
For those that see it, how about that?
Can neither confirm nor deny that it is the real.
It is not. I've been texted by somebody who said, did you see the comments on the StreamYard? Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that up there. That's going to make a good screenshot for later. It's a fake Livy Dunn account saying, excited to see you in Omaha, Elijah. I'm taking that. That's a win for me. Our friend Gary Sharp got to talk to Livy Dunn last night.
That's
One more time. I'm missing this late.
Oh, no, we're just talking about the comment we have in here on the StreamYard from the fake Livy Dunn saying, excited to see you in Omaha, Elijah. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
We're going to get Coach Ekeler on the horn here. He does not have his earbuds with him, which is all right. That's all right. But we're going to talk some Rocky Top baseball with Coach Mike Ekeler, assistant at Nebraska, was an assistant at Georgia, did great things, and has been part of that turnaround with Tennessee football. As man, they were incredible last year with Hooker and company, and that big win over Bama. And we just love Eck, man. We love him from his time at Nebraska, and he was always good to us and excited here.
And I want to ask him about a video. I know we got to talk College World Series, but I did see a video. I'm not sure why it just came to my feed now, but it was the Tennessee president sitting up in the box after Tennessee's win over Alabama. And he's sitting up there smoking a cigar, and somebody asks him, how much is this going to cost? And he says, talking about the goalposts, obviously,
Yeah.
I don't care. We can do this every single season. I don't care how much it costs.
That's funny. That's pretty good. But nope, Coach Ekeler is going to join us.
So, what do you think it would take to get the goalpost torn down at Memorial Stadium again? It's been a long time.
Oh, it would take a team like it could happen Saturday, the 30th of September. Nebraska's unbeaten and Michigan's in town.
Michigan back-to-back years in the college football playoff. They're going to be top 5 in the country most likely at that point. That's not a bad answer. I was just wondering if it was going to take some sort of historic rivalry to get it over the top to a point where Husker fans could tear down the goalposts.
They got torn down back. They did back-to-back weekends of doing it. This is all the way back in 1992 where Nebraska beat Kansas. Kansas was ranked pretty high. Night game at Memorial Stadium, and then the week after that, they dismantled Colorado on Halloween in 1992, 56-7.
I know it's been at least 24 years since the goalposts have come down because it's never happened. Not once in my lifetime have the goalposts come down at Memorial Stadium.
Well, that's okay because typically Nebraska's the team you beat to tear down the goalposts.
That's true.
And Coach Ekeler was part of that staff at K-State, I think, in 98 with the Michael Bishop team that ended the 30-year run by Nebraska. Do we have Coach with us?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how you doing
All right.
today?
Hey, Coach Ekeler, hey, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, your friends in Lincoln from, not too long ago, but also a lot of years ago. Coach, thanks for jumping on. How are you doing?
Hey, doing awesome, man. How you guys doing?
We are good, and I gotta hear from you about your Vols. Give me a pump up with Coach Tony V. And are you excited? Are you confident tonight with the Vols against LSU?
Hey, we got the greatest coach in ball, man. I mean, Tony V is a absolute RLD, a real live dude. I'm telling you what, it's funny. You know, Will Compton with his busing with the boys. He came and brought the bus last year, and I told him. He interviewed Hype on the bus. He interviewed a couple of our players. And I said, one other guy you got to interview is Coach V. And he did. And I stood in there and listened to it. The best interview I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, it was absolutely freaking magic, man.
Mike Ekeler with us, Hail Varsity Radio, as Coach Jack, of course, special teams coordinator at Tennessee. At outside linebackers, Coach, we were just talking about goalposts and Tennessee and what a magical year for Rocky Top. And it's good to see Tennessee back where Tennessee belongs, Coach, winning big ball games. And take us through last year's ride. Let's talk some ball and just the experience, Coach Hype, Hendon, the talent you had, but also the big wins you guys pulled off.
Well, I'll tell you what, Josh Heupel is as good a ball coach as there is out there. I mean, I've been around some great ones, played for Bill Snyder, worked with Bob Stoops,
and some other, phenomenal ones. I mean, Bo Pelini's a damn good coach. Hype is like Cool Hand Luke. I mean, nothing fazed him. And the guy, what he's done coming in here, calming the storm and leading this group, I mean, it's no different than what he did as a player at Oklahoma. He took a previous 5-win team 2 years later, put him on his back, and went 13-0 and won the Natty. And that's who he is. He's just a strong, strong leader, unbelievably detailed, and just loves ball. And the kids, we got to kick them out of the facility around here. I mean, they just love coming in here. So that's been fun. And the games, I mean, Rocky Top's a lot, it's iconic. And Peyton Manning said it best. He said that it's a bucket list. When Rocky Top in Neyland Stadium is rolling, shoot, man, there's Fenway Park, there's Yankee Stadium, and there's Rocky Top. And he's right. I mean, this place is absolutely nuts. So it's fun. I mean, we got a ways to go, but, we're chasing championships around here, and that's the way it should be.
Coach Mike Ekeler's with us here at Hail Varsity Radio. And, Coach, whenever you look back at the past decade or 15 years for Nebraska and Tennessee, there's a lot of similarities up until last season whenever Tennessee was able to take that next step. And I want to get your thoughts on the pressure surrounding a program like Nebraska or Tennessee. How do you keep the players' minds off that pressure, or at least use that pressure for good as opposed to bad as you try to build up to where Tennessee should be?
It's funny, when I first came to Nebraska, the first player I recruited was Will Compton, and his dad asked me the same question. He's like, man, you got a ton of pressure on you, and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? We got zero pressure on us. I mean, the fans, if they expect us to win them all, it's what we expect. And so as a coach, you don't listen to the outside noise because it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if you're at East Peabody U or if you're at Nebraska, if you're at Tennessee. If you're a competitor, you expect to win them all. And if you're not a competitor and you don't expect to win them all, you probably need to get in a damn different business.
Well, Coach Mike Ekeler is here with us on Hail Varsity Radio, and Elijah mentioned taking that next step for Tennessee, which happened last year. And obviously, once you take that next step, the atmosphere comes with it and everything else. But as a coach, before that season, can you feel the energy shift within a program when it's about to explode, if you will, on the field into a double-digit win season?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the year before, we blew it. I mean, we should have won 10 games the year before. And, we had an unbelievable leader in Hendon Hooker. We had great leadership from the top with hype. And the kids, they believed. And so it didn't really, to be honest, it really didn't surprise me. It's more kind of what we expected.
Mike Ekeler, a couple minutes with us, Hail Varsity Radio. He is cheering his Vols on tonight. We're a block from the Charles Schwab Field College World Series. Coach, just to paint the picture for you, there's all sorts of Tennessee orange in here to zip line. There's all sorts of LSU purple. There's some Florida. There's some sad Oral Roberts, but there's beer here, so they'll be okay. And we're excited to spend a few minutes with you. So I wanted to get your take on when it comes to evaluating kids. We were talking recruiting earlier in the show, and you're as good a recruiter as there is, just following your career and seeing some of the kids you've got, but also who you've developed. And there's many traits, but what do you look for in a kid? I mean, is he fast? Is he strong? Is he smart? I mean, those are all important things, but what's a differentiator for you when it comes down to getting on the table for a kid?
Well, it's no different than NFL scouts. NFL scouts for the last 20 years have been coming in my office, and I don't care if it's Bill Belichick, I don't care if it's a scout, a GM. On average, they ask three main questions. And the first question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does he love the game? Because if you don't love it, it's too damn hard, and you'll never be great at it. So you got to love it, number one. Number two, on the scale of 1 to 10, how tough is he? It's a gam's game. It's a grown, man's game. And you got to be tough, man. I mean, it ain't always going to be 75 and sunny with the cool breeze coming off the Pacific. you're going to be dinged up. You're not always going to have your A game, and you got to fight through it, and you got to find a way to have a great shitty day, And you got to be tough-minded, physically, mentally. It's all part of it. And then the third one is, what about his character? The scouts ask us, hey, am I going to have to worry? We give this guy millions of dollars and draft him. Am I going to have to worry every time I go home that I'm going to see his name on the ticker? It's no different from us. So those are the kind of things that we look for. And Ed Orgeron said, he told me this when I worked with him out at Southern Cal, he said, on average, there's 5 players each year that have a little bit different DNA. And everybody else is very similar. So those other traits that I just described are omnipotent. I mean, you got to go get and dig in and find those guys, man. You want to find smart, tough guys who freaking love ball.
Is it getting harder to do that, or is it easier to do that?
No. I mean, it's the same. I mean, influences change and so forth, but people are people. And the influences that were on people, 20 years ago are different than what they are today. But at the end of the day, people, the real ones, the real dudes, they want to compete, they want to get better, and they want to maximize their ability, and they want to win. And that's what it's about. It's about developing. Every single day, you got a damn choice to make. You're either going to take a step forward or take a step back. And 99% of the people can't sustain. And, so that's the challenge. That's what's fun about it.
Mike Ekeler with us, outside linebackers coach, special teams coordinator, Rocky Top, Tennessee Vols. They are staying alive, try to stay alive tonight against LSU, the World Series, just a block behind our left shoulder. Coach Eck, cheer for Rocky Top. I know you will, and thanks for talking some ball with us today on Hail Varsity. It's always fun to catch up with you.
Hey, I'll tell you what, thanks for having me. And, man, our team, our baseball team, I hit every game that I can. It's right across, like literally almost connected to our facility. Every game is sold out. It's crazy. Our team plays so hard. They compete so damn hard, and it's a complete reflection of our head ball coach who, again, I'll go out and I'll say it again, we got the best damn coach in ball.
Gotta love it. Coach, you take care. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back to you, Hail Varsity Radio. Rages forward here at Zipline, downtown Omaha, North 14th. The first of the rest of the week we're here while there's ball. And you have elimination game tonight. You'll have an elimination game tomorrow night. And potentially, if necessary, Thursday, Friday. Awesome sit down with Mike Ekeler, longtime assistant in the world of college football and part of this Tennessee turnaround. His thoughts on the Vols baseball squad. He's a big baseball fan. He goes to all the Vols baseball, so we wanted him to his perspective. I love his Twitter take a little earlier, posting the Tiger King. Taming a tiger. I love that troll job. And then just talk some recruiting. And, man, Tennessee was able to pop last year. And Coach Herbel and company did a great job. And I think there's similar excitement with Coach Rule in Nebraska. And I hope that Nebraska, Tennessee, home and home, stays put. Absolutely stays put. But Eck was one of those guys that's self-made. There was a walk-on, a Blair kid, Blair, Nebraska kid that went to K-State. He touched on the coaching tree that he's learned from with Coach Snyder and Bob Stoops, Big Game Bob. And, of course, Eck was really nice for Nebraska as a linebackers coach, and then was at Georgia and North Texas and found his way back to the SEC under Hype. And, hey, Eck's done a great job, super energetic, all sorts of hilarious stories from Eck over the years, but just getting down to the meat and potatoes of recruiting with him was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was always awesome to hear from him. And I want to get your take on if you think it's important that Matt Rule has a season like Tennessee had last year in order to get things to pop. With where Nebraska has been, do you think that's a viable method to the top? Do you know what? like Tennessee did last year. You have a couple transfers that hit right. You have a couple guys that pop a year or two before they're expected to pop, and you can parlay it all into a magical season, which then you can turn into recruiting momentum and more momentum for this staff moving forward. Like, I don't think we think Heupel's going to fizzle out in the near future because of what he did last year. If you're able to successfully parlay that into some talent, which based on what we've seen in the recruiting trail, Tennessee's been able to do that, it feels like something they're going to be able to continue to capitalize on as the years go on. Do you think that's how Matt Rule needs to get it done at Nebraska, or does that slow build, can it work?
Well, there's a couple of different builds, right? I look at Jimbo Fisher, and when it popped at Florida State, it really, really popped.
Yep.
I mean, it was national championship, but they were incremental at 7-8 wins, then they got to a 10 win, and then bam, they were they were national championship. What I think with Nebraska is this: you're going to need your breakthrough season, and I think you'll have your breakthrough season. To your point, you can build on some recruiting momentum. Right now, I think they're going after kids they think that will be ready eventually, and they trust in getting them ready eventually. But you have a breakthrough season, you can maybe get some guys that are quicker and ready earlier, and keep building. What you can't do is be a one-hit wonder. Okay, what you got to have is sustained success at Nebraska, sustained success in the Big Ten, and be in that conversation, because the third and fourth place team, or maybe even the fifth place team in some years in the Big Ten, depending on how November shakes out, you're all going to be in playoff contention. That's just what it is with that 12-team field. So, yes, Rule needs to have a Heupel-type breakthrough. I don't know that it is going to be that emphatic. I mean, Tennessee, until Hooker got hurt, was national championship good.
Yep.
They were incredible. And then they had some belief. What Rule's doing right now is the right way. With first and foremost, fellas, it's about chemistry. They're doing the old, let's go hang out in the dorms together. Let's eat together. I mean, all those steps you're taking to have bonding and team building,
togetherness,
and really do give a damn about the guy you're rooming with or you're playing on the line with. That's a very real thing. That's step one. You have your chemistry and your commitment, and then go get guys better through hard work and training, and then get them to believe. And then they need the payoff of proof of concept. They need to see all of this stuff you're drilling into them work, right? And once it works, well, the sky's the limit. Then you really get going, because you believe what you're being taught, you buy in good, then you pass it down to future recruits and classes, and it stacks on top of one another, where you're stacking practices to stacking wins in a season, and then you start stacking seasons. I mean, Searles laid it out there perfectly with his time in Minnesota, with all the things you need to accomplish before you start to be really, really good. Tennessee's always had the talent. They've just had some mismanagement with their head coaching, because they're similar to Nebraska with the turnstile of head coaches they've been through.
I just think Tennessee is such a perfect representation of Nebraska and how it can still work at Nebraska. Tennessee looked like they were down and out for about 10 years. They looked like they were little brother. You know what? They're never going to get back to the same level.
But yet they've got dudes playing in the NFL.
Yeah. And I guess you can say that about Nebraska as well. Maybe not to the same level.
Not to the same level.
But Tennessee was always able to use their passionate fans, and really where they're located in the country, to go bring themselves in some talent. As soon as you get that one season to pop, as I said, I don't think anyone's betting against Tennessee over the next 5 years to completely fall off the face of the earth. I just wonder if it's going to take, I mean, obviously the first step for Nebraska is making a bowl game. After that, is it going to take one season where some things just happen to turn out right, and boom, you're talking 10, 11 wins? Is that what it's going to take for Nebraska to come back to the mountaintop? Because Bo Pelini was never able to get over that second hump. The first hump is making a bowl game, being a good team, competing for a conference championship or a division. The next hump after that is, you know what, you're not competing to go win your conference. You're competing, it used to be for a New Year's Six bowl. Now it's for college football playoff.
They closed the window. Like, the window to me was not closed. You're closer to getting 10, 11, 12, the breakthrough. if you're sitting at 9 or 10 wins than you are going off to a 3-9, 4-8, 500 career guy. I mean, you're closer. And Nebraska needed to put it together. They didn't do it, and then a couple more missteps after the fact, and now here's Coach Rule. So you got to feel pretty good. But no, Tennessee got it right. It appears finally with their head coach, their staff, their confidence level, and their competency. And it's good they did, and it's a similar narrative to what the Big Ten's turning into. Not only what it's been in the East, right, but what it's going to become with the Hollywood folks moving in. Look how much better the SEC East has gotten. Kentucky's no joke. Georgia's won 2 championships. Who am I missing? Florida has been kind of doing the elevator thing, but they're still Florida. And then, of course, there's Tennessee. It's always been the SEC West. That's still incredible, but no, the SEC East is no joke, and Tennessee was a lot of fun to watch last year. We'll wind down this roadshow Tuesday as Hail Varsity Radio at Zipline. Downtown Omaha, right across from Charles Schwab Field, North 14th. We'll say goodbye next on Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We're here at Zipline Downtown Tap Room, right across from Charles Schwab Field. We'll be back here tomorrow, 4 to 6. We're getting the table set for Tennessee and LSU round 2. Many thanks to Mike Ekeler. Coach Eck, of course, with Nebraska for a time, doing great things at Tennessee. Loves him some balls. Baseball, doesn't miss a game. We had to get his take on the game and talk some recruiting with him. Coach McBride joined us as we were off yesterday. And then Mitch Sherman also spent some time with us. Can get the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, where you download the audio, either the interviews you want or the whole show there. Can also watch and stream us, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel or the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. We're going to try and get Shuey locked in tomorrow. Mike Schuhart. We will get Mike Babcock loaded up and on-site Evan Bland tomorrow. Ooh. So we're pretty good. Pat Casey, head coach, longtime head coach and multiple-time national champion at Oregon State. He's actually in France, but he said yes to us. So Coach Casey will join us. He knows Omaha. He knows the greatest show on dirt. He knows this time of year. Pat Casey with us Thursday. Coach Barnett from a member guest tournament on Wednesday. Make that Thursday in Michigan. Probably some PGA course Barney's going to shoot par at. And is Vogel available?
No, Vogel's out this week.
Okay. So, no Vogues, which makes me sad, but I completely understand. So, thanks for the welcome back. This was good times today. I missed it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Like, among the welcomes back you could get, I said this before at the College World Series. It's true every single year at the College World Series. What's there not to love about being up here, especially at Zipline? Beer, baseball, beautiful women. It's the 3 Bs. It's all on display in Omaha. It's just lovely for this to be back. And as I was talking with Connor last week, it just feels like it's summer in Nebraska yet again. And being up here further cements that. It's warm, it's hot, it's humid. But, man, good times are aplenty up here in Omaha during the College World Series.
They are. So tell the folks what you're sipping on here to stay hydrated.
This is the Italian-style Pilsner, which I have gotten about halfway through. I'm still subscribing to the FCC laws on remaining sober while on the air. You're welcome. If anyone out the government's listening, I believe so.
Okay.
I think I remember learning about that in school. I don't remember much from school, but I think I remember learning about that.
Probably have that.
But yeah, the Italian-style Pilsner.
Yeah, I am doing the can opener. So it's pretty good. Connor, when you're up here, we'll get you one. All right?
I'm doing the Casey's water. Got to keep the voice in pristine condition.
Do you guys really buy into the tobacco and alcohol thing affecting your voice?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Not fully.
I'm just asking.
Well, yeah, whenever I really get good and drunk before I umpire high school baseball games, you wouldn't believe how different my voice sounds.
Oh, is that Rick James? Is that Rick James calling strikes? Well, we'll talk to you tomorrow as we'll be back live here at Zipline, North 14th, just a foul ball away from Charles Schwab Field. Enjoy it and cheer on Rocky Top or LSU. Whoever you fancy tonight, but great baseball ahead.
Go Tigers.
With the College World Series. Thanks for tuning in to Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.